Hello, lore heads, and welcome to the League, exploring the League of Legends lore from A to Z. My name is Rebecca.
And I'm John.
My name is Mark.
And today we're talking about the Eternal Hunters Kindred, who was released October 14th, 2015. I remember when I read that date in my head, I was like, October 14th, 2015 is what my brain did. Because it didn't feel like that long.
Yeah.
15,
that's like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I know.
No,
That's many
I'm pretty
years.
sure that's like 3 years ago.
That was 3 years
That's
ago.
when 2015 was.
Yeah, pandemic years don't count. I think that's what we've decided.
just strike them from the record.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Kindred's
I don't
alright.
think any of us play Kindred, right? Like, we don't know anyone who plays Kindred. It's all...
So I did actually have a short stint,
Oh,
a
yeah.
handful of games where I took her bot lane AD carry. Or I
It didn't
took them
go-
bot lane AD carry.
You know,
It went really well.
Okay, so super
Rebecca's
good.
misremembering.
I don't know about
Well,
that.
We were
I'll
playing
play her in
against
ARAM. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, ARAM, sure, play anything,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I played against a Kindred mid the other day who had Kindred in their fucking summoner name. And they
Oh,
did
you hate to see it.
shit stomp me. But I think that's part of what it is, right? Is that we don't play with anyone who plays her, or them.
I don't
Sorry,
think so.
I always just think Lamb when I think
I
Kindred.
know,
but,
me too. You don't really see the wolf very much.
Yeah,
I guess
It's kind of a-
them Kindred maids do.
I guess so. I just die.
I gotta hit a button to see Wolf. I ain't got time for that.
I gotta say, though, nothing activates my fight or flight response quite like going up against someone who's playing the champion that's in their summoner name.
Yes.
I'm instantly like, let me dodge, please.
I'm out.
I didn't notice it till the end of the game. I was like, oh, okay, made me feel better.
All right, who's doing the impression first?
Oh, okay. You got something in mind there, Mark? You've got a nice deep voice.
Ooh, well, I mean, I thought Wolf would be fun, but okay, what's the quote I got? I thought, I see water. They are called tears.
Oh, I did like that one. Okay. All things great and small. Die! I really love the contrast.
Yeah. All right.
Words, la la la, pew, twang, pew.
Are you imitating me?
Jesus Christ. That was so loud.
You're welcome.
Oh,
I love
anyway. On the universe page, Kindred has a bio, a teaser video, and 3 short stories, and 2 of them are about plays.
Yeah, right? If I had a nickel, right? Not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
When I was reading them, I was on the couch and I was like, John, this play story is pretty funny. And he went, which one? And I was like, excuse me. But I'll take us through the bio real quick if we want to do that.
Let's do it by Matthew
Sure.
Dunn.
Oh, okay. And he did the 2 of the short stories. Maybe
He
I
did
did-
They had pretty
literally all
consistent
of
writing on
everything.
this.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's always nice to see and so rare. So Kindred is kind of the Grim Reaper, I guess, although it kind of sounds like they just kill steal from everyone in Runeterra was kind of the vibe I was getting. They are the lamb and the wolf, but they're always known together as Kindred. Basically, when someone dies, they can accept this and the lamb will shoot them, real super good, or they can run away and then wolf hunts them down. It's a weirdly poetic bio when I was reading it. And I'm very tired and dumb, so it took me a minute. But there's not too much else. The bio mentions how Demacians will usually choose the lamb's death, while Noxians will run off and make the wolf chase them. They also mention the Shadow Isles and how Kindred knows that these souls will only be able to evade death for so long. And the bio wraps up mentioning how Kindred has always been here, of course, but the earliest appearances were in a pair of carved masts, and no one knows where they came from.
Now, I will say specifically, not always.
Oh, okay.
Only
okay,
for
okay.
as long as people
Oh, sure.
have known death. So they don't predate people. So that's something.
That's
So
true.
if you just tell someone that they don't know that death exists, can they just not die? Because that's what that sounds like.
That
Well-
is the cause of a lot of conversations on the forums with the Kindred.
Yes.
Ooh.
I mean, yeah, I think we're going to get into it when we get to Legends of Runeterra stuff, because they really, through that, expanded a lot around Kindred. And also, we see it in one of the short stories, one of the play ones.
Yes.
Which is it's an interesting tack, I will say, to take with Kindred in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, kind of what you're saying. It's very poetic, and it's also very short. It is 339 words. It's 4.24 Heimerdingers, which is relatively short. It's pretty short for a bio. A lot of the ones we hit are at least 500-600 words. And this one's really short, but I think it almost kind of like it's like the exception that proves the rule about these short bios, or like having these ancient like weird characters that you can't really write a perspective piece around necessarily.
Right.
But like, I'm not mad at this. This is pretty much what I want from my Kindred bio.
I liked it, and I think like we had always talked about like, I hate how when people have short bios, they also have like one short story or no short story. But Kindred gets nice short stories, and they're, like you mentioned, they're not point of view pieces necessarily, but they tell me what I want to know about Kindred, which is the goal.
Yeah, I would even say the Realms of Runeterra one. It is nearly a perspective piece, and I guess when we get to it, we'll talk about why that is. But
Mark's the only one who read it.
You need to buy one of them fancy special books to read that one.
You gotta get the full Kindred action pack.
I mean, he literally sent it to us.
He did send us the pictures of the pages. Although if you're from Riot and you're listening to this, no, he didn't.
I didn't do that.
Pirate something like that. But we didn't.
We met in IRL and we just shared the book together. All three of us sitting in a big campfire.
Aww, that kind of sounds nice,
romantic.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say the only thing that sticks out a little to me is the end, because it's just like this weird 2-sentence paragraph about like, oh, by the way, Kindred has specifically shown up ever since these, like the first, what's the actual text? The earliest dated appearance of the Eternal Hunters is from a pair of masks. I don't know if they mean that in like a cultural sense, like if you were putting together a museum of Kindred, be like, well, this is the first depiction of Kindred, etc. Because we have to assume they were around before that even, and this is just like the first time someone ever saw that really archetypal two-spirit type thing going on with them, or what, or if this is just like a weird thing they threw in at the end as like an undeveloped idea, or what.
They threw in masks because they knew they wanted to write some play stories, and they're like, we gotta justify this.
I wish that there was more on the masks, because it makes it sound like it's really out of place in the bio, and they're like, oh, by the way, there are some masks. And then they end up being kind of a big deal in the short stories. So like, can we, do a little more?
I think a lot of I could be wrong about this, but I think a lot of the promotional stuff that came out focused pretty heavily on the masks.
Oh, okay.
Like the kind of yin-yang nature of the masks.
It could be that. It could just be. It's hard because there's definitely been parts of lore that have been kind of grafted onto Kindred, and I think they've done like this is the smoothest job I've ever seen in terms of like you can't see the scar, but we know for a fact that it's got really recent stuff cut from Legends of Runeterra. So I don't know if that happened with the bio. It feels like it, but maybe. Like you said, it's just like, hey, the masks are important. Say something about the masks. Matthew Dunn was like, I'm fucking done. See my last name, son. And they're like, hey, you need to talk about the masks a little. He's like, fine. Fuck it.
They exist. Happy?
Right?
That's what it feels like. Trust me, I've like mummified chapters together before, and you could really tell. And that's kind of what it felt like.
Mummified, not Frankenstein.
Oh, God, fuck. God damn it.
Well, she wrapped them together.
Right? It's kind of work.
Thanks,
I get
hun.
it.
Got you.
Got my back.
Scrambled their brains out. But I liked it also because I like that it's very clearly doing what they do with Kindred so often, which is like, hey, it's a reflection on different cultures in Runeterra, and I like the little depictions of like, oh, a true Demacian takes the arrow, et cetera, et cetera. Those are cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, one of the things that I liked was they mentioned that in, I think it was the Freljord, they referred to it as kissing the wolf, which immediately made me think of Cabin in the Woods. Right in the opening where they're playing Truth or Dare, and they're like, I dare you to kiss that wolf.
Oh my God.
Oh
when
my
she makes
God.
out with the taxidermy.
Yeah, now I imagine everyone in Freljord doing that.
John,
Imagine
that's-
Tryndamere doing that like
John,
sexy walk.
No.
That's so great because in that Runeterra story, they've got people in big wolf heads, right? But I imagine it now like a kissing booth. They're like, ooh, I get to be the wolf this year. Fuck yeah. Step on up.
I thought it was such a nice little touch, John, and
Yeah,
you
me too.
ruined it.
Way to ruin it. I love it.
I don't know why it took me so long. I've seen The Cabin in the Woods as many times as you have, I think. And I'm like, what?
I think if you said to anyone, "Hey, kissing the wolf, cabin in the woods," right? Everyone would be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
I don't know. I think a lot of people found that pretty memorable. She really put her tongue in that wolf.
Yeah, although I will say not enough people have seen Cabin in the Woods, and if you haven't, you should fucking watch it.
If you like
It's
horror.
gold.
Yeah.
Or comedy horror.
Yep.
Yeah,
Let's
but
be
I
honest.
feel like you need to appreciate horror to appreciate Cabin in the Woods.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, Scream in that regard. So you appreciate it more if you've seen horror.
I want to watch Scream.
Anywho, we're going to move on to the short stories now. And we have a special guest with us today for the short stories. This is the first time ever where we have had a patron joining us for the episode. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Hart?
Hello, I am Hart, as he said, or Ashton is my real name, but I mostly go by Hart online.
Hold on just a second. I don't think Mark can hear you. I can hear
can.
you, but Mark can't.
What?
All right, talk again. See if you can.
Hello?
There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Woo.
I was like, I
Do we
can't
need to
hear him.
redo
Oh, no.
that, or are we good?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
We'll,
Yeah.
we'll splice it together. No one will even know.
I'll mummy it together.
What's great is that now that this is funny, it's all going to stay in.
Yeah, it's all gonna
definitely
stay.
going to be it.
Okay. Yeah. So, what made you want to pick Kindred for the episode? Do you play Kindred?
No. I did have a small kick, like John was saying before,
Yeah.
of playing Kindred. And then I realized jungle is awful, and I constantly get blamed, so I moved to a lane. But back before I listened to the podcast, I listened to a huge YouTube playlist of canon lore from Necrit. And he did a video covering, I think it was A Good Death. And I remember it being a really good short story, so I decided on Kindred since all my mains were pretty much covered or like were in the Z's. So
It's a good call.
yeah,
I swear we're going to get to him. I swear.
yeah.
I know.
One of these days.
But then what do we do? We haven't
What-
talked. All right, let's
what
not have
letter
this
after?
existential crisis. Right.
Right?
All right. So there are 3 short stories, like we said. Right? 3. Yeah. Yeah. God. Sorry.
There are 3 listed on Universe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a 4th one if you count the one from the Runeterra book, and then a 5th one if you count mentions in Ezreal's short stories.
Oh God, I don't
I feel like
remember
Kindred. I know Kindred has been mentioned in other stories. I know for a
yeah,
fact.
it has
Oh yeah,
been.
I have a list
Yeah.
actually of things that they're just mentioned in. It's like 10 stories long. They get mentioned a lot.
Yeah, I started looking through that and it's like, well, I get it. Like, they just show up as some reference to, like, oh, the wolf or the lamb. Like, I know in
Yeah.
that Darius
Exactly.
story, they have a temple to the wolf. So, you know.
that. All right.
All right, we
so-
want to dig in?
Yeah.
Let's start with forest in the trees, because that's
For the
forest for the
trees.
trees, not in the trees. The forest can't be inside of
Forest in the
trees.
trees.
John, idiot, God.
Really spiraled. Are you okay? I feel like Dobby over here.
Sure. You want me to do that? Does she have a lot of AU stuff?
No, she's got like 3 AUs.
Oh,
They
okay.
have 3 AUs.
Yeah, I'll still hit it, though. This one, like, the summary is very short. It's just kind of showing Kindred kind of fulfilling their role as the kind of, I don't know, avatar of death, however you want to kind of personify it, in a battle, which I think is a really fun setting to kind of show Kindred at. It's like, it's a very short story, too. Again, really short, but very effective. And,
Yeah.
you know, for a while, Kindred is kind of taking those who accept their fate, you know, even ones who die in a violent death, who are like, I'm fine. They're comfortable more with the idea of, like, I can pass on. But Wolf spots a squire who is not down to clown, and Squire tries to escape, and Wolf hunts him down and kills him. And that's really it in terms of summary.
Yeah.
I really like the dynamic between Wolf and Lamb here. It's
Yeah.
like, for some reason, not knowing a whole lot about Kindred, this was the first story I read. For some reason, I thought that Lamb would think that Wolf was kind of like over the top or like unnecessarily brutal or something like that compared to like her own elegant way of ending things. But I love that she's just happy that he's happy, even when he's like crunching on the bones of a scared child. Like,
Oh, I completely missed that Kindred or Lamb was laughing when the wolf was chasing. I just seen that.
Yes,
This is
yeah.
the
Yeah, it's like she laughed to see such sport, and it's a pretty little brutal description of like, oh, his lifeblood just like right out of his neck, right? But I completely agree.
Oh, that little
It's
scamp.
obviously more terrifying.
Yeah, I think what's strong about all of the Kindred lore in general, I think, is that it's a great example of they have a great voice and a dynamic between the two of them, and they're very distinct, and they're tons of fun to spend time with, and it's communicated so effectively in like every single piece when Wolf and Lamb are kind of talking back and forth. And like you said, John, like you get, even if you haven't ever played Kindred, you don't know the audio, you have like an immediate understanding of that relationship and how it's not really something that is necessarily, I want to say it's something that's hard to maybe kind of like identify with as a person, but it's the two personalities are tons of fun kind of interacting throughout this, you know?
Yeah, it was like a choice to make them get along and connect the way they do. It's so important for their job, I guess, their little career, but
Their little side hustle.
their side hustle. What do you think they do? Too many people die in Runeterra. They ain't got no time for anything else.
God, I know.
What happens if two people die at the same time in Runeterra?
It's actually canon that they can be multiple places at the same time.
That's horrifying. I wish I didn't ask that question. But anyway, I think it could have been easy to make them not get along so well, kind of like Kane and Ross a little bit, like they're fighting, and that's easier to make that funny, but they didn't go that easy route, I feel like.
I think you'll see that in the Realms of Runeterra story a lot too, because they'll get into arguments and they'll get kind of upset with each other, but it's all love at the end of the day, and that's something that they communicate super well with them. Is that, like you said, she's happy when he's happy, and kind of vice versa. They don't stay mad at each other in any way. It's tons of fun to see them interact, I think.
Yeah.
I liked a few of Lamb's quotes here too.
Oh, okay.
I know that she had said, or Wolf mentioned, like, as he was like murdering the child and it was like screaming or whatever, he was like,
Is this music, Lamb?
and she was like, it is to you.
I had that written down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good line.
I love it. Yeah, I think the writing in this is overall strong. Very short, but some of just the descriptions of the way it describes things. Like it talks about the battle kind of turning on the squire, and the way it writes it is, the battle turned its steel towards the squire. He now stared at the rolling tide of bravery and desperation coming for him, rather than just saying like, oh, a bunch of dudes kind of started fighting around him. It's a more interesting way of telling us kind of what's actually, happening,
Yeah, I like Matthew Dunn's writing a lot in all the short stories. Even the ones that were a little bit longer, they didn't feel like flowery and bloated to me.
Right.
They were very like every line was important, is what it felt like.
Yeah, but still still somehow poetic.
Sometimes, yeah.
But
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I completely agree. I really loved reading all these. I think that's why I'm liking Kindred so much, is I had a fun time with them. I was never bored, and it's talking about the start of the battle. It's like, Lamb danced lively from sword edge to spear tip, the red-blooded butchery never staining her pale coat. It's just like, it's very, not emotive, but like evocative. You can very easily picture what's happening in your mind, and it's a very graceful way of handling, again, what's literally happening in a way that's interesting and, effective and all those things.
Do we have any more thoughts on this story?
I'm
No,
good.
we good?
good stuff done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice appetizer.
Was this one by Matt Dunn? Because he wasn't credited for it on.
Yeah, we had to
this.
go on to the wiki for most
Okay.
credits.
Well,
Yes.
I was confused because all the other stories or at least on Universe, were credited to him, but not this one.
Yeah, it's really random, like when they credit, when they don't sometimes.
I know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
there
think
must have been like a time period
Like
where
a
they were
line.
like, authors don't need credits. It's the
We are one author.
they're getting paid. They don't need the exposure.
Right?
I'm sure that thought, like you said, Rebecca, in a more positive way. It was like, it's the Riot voice. This is the Universe author, and it was like, hey, no, it's actual like individual contributors, and they have styles. And
Yeah. Well,
so
I
They
used,
might not be here forever. They need a reel.
I did used to write for like a tween website, and the blog of that website, all of the blog posts were under the CEO of the tween website, even though she didn't write a single one of them. So,
picking up some deep lore here.
oh yeah, I won't mention the tween website. Mark knows
No,
what
no.
it is though, because Sarah also used to work there. Okay, the other story, or the next one, okay.
Take a stab.
No, I'm
wants
not.
to
I
say
don't
it?
have a stab. I don't have notes.
But I liked your pronunciation of it before.
Oh,
when
okay.
You mentioned your reasoning.
Okay. So, John, do you say so-ates?
I was just in my head saying soats, but
Soats. Okay.
I was saying
So,
so-a-tees.
oh my god, me too!
Oh, I was thinking like Paul and Soaps, you know?
Because it looked like Socrates.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, shit.
I did read it soats first. I was like, it can't be that. It's got to be.
So-ates.
hey, simplest explanation is usually the right one. That's what I go by.
I mean, Occam's razor.
Yeah.
All right, so what should we call her, though, really?
I like so-a-tees, but if y'all want to go with soats. if the
Soates
Soats
does
crew is
sound
on it-
fancy, so it'll make us feel fancy saying it probably.
Oh, give me a fucking
Sure.
wine glass. Let's go.
Fancy.
Finishing so-atees as I finish my glass of wine. That's from a box.
Pour it directly into my mouth.
Shut
All
your
right,
whole
finishing
box.
so-a-tees. Who wants to tackle it? Because this is the longest of them, except for maybe the Realms of Runeterra one. I can also.
I
do
don't
it.
have notes for it. I'm gonna be
I
honest.
can do it if you want it. So I know you're going to be doing the Realms of Runeterra one since you're the only one that read it.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll handle this one.
Go for it, sweetie. We'll
but
do it
I'll
together.
But I'll do it without a lot of character names, probably.
Yeah, I didn't
That's
write
true.
down character names.
There's a lot of people in this.
Yeah. Basically, they are putting on. There's this company of actors putting on this play from an unfinished poem by this author named Soates, as we've decided to call her. Now, she died before she could finish the poem, so the director of this play kind of made up his own ending to it, and the production is kind of a disaster. Nothing's going right, and they have to open for a bunch of rich Demacian nobles soon, so they're kind of in a panic. But the whole thing is being funded by a kind of like a God, I forget what her title is. I was going to say like a rich lordess,
Lady.
but like a baroness. Or,
Lady.
Lady.
I think it
Okay.
was just lady. Yeah.
Lady. Hey, lady. So it's being funded by a rich lady. And
Was that supposed to be a Beastie Boys reference?
Yeah.
It's Hey Ladies, first of all.
yeah, but there's only one lady
Okay.
in the story. That'd be ridiculous.
Anyway.
So, yeah, they basically things go awry. The lady shows up, except it's not really her, and she starts offering suggestions to the play. They pull out a bunch of masks. They say like, "Oh, you have to really inhabit the characters in the story, wear the masks, and become the characters." And so they do, and then we see them kind of acting like the characters of the masks they put on.
But
And-
in like a way that was like disturbing.
yes, like a very
Yes.
weird kind of horror movie style way. And then we kind of skip to the opening where I don't know what his role is in the company. Maybe we'll call him a stagehand for now. He's gone to gather the nobles. He was stalling them long enough that they could get their shit
He's the
together.
warm-up comedian.
Yeah. So he lets him in, and they get there, and everyone is just kind of frozen on the stage in place. And it's very impactful. Everyone in the crowd's like, oh my God, this is pretty fucking cool. But then nothing ever happens. They just stay frozen in place, and the stagehand's like, oh shit, something's gone wrong. So he goes backstage to check. The director's missing, and there's a note at the end of the story that says...
Oh, he's got it written
Oh.
down.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Are you hoping someone else has it written
I
down?
really
Oh,
was hoping
the-
someone else had it
Oh,
written
I do have it written down.
I got it here too as well.
Yeah,
I was looking at
do
the
it.
page. The end is not for those who wear no masks. She showed me, and it was beautiful.
Perfect.
Nice.
Nailed it first try.
You guys got
John,
it.
you changed your voice at the end there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a very, I mean, I liked this story a lot.
I did like it. I found it confusing. The tone switch really threw me off. The beginning of this story is so funny. This might have been really just funny as a former stagehand, or like I used to do theater crew, and this is such a theater dramatics at the beginning that was really good. Yeah, the tone swaps pretty quickly once the lady enters, and the main character, I can't remember his name.
Tarnal.
The,
Tarnold?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Donald.
yeah.
And he's really like slowly starting to notice that the lady is all fucked up. And she had died that night, by the way. That was
Yes, their
another
lady
thing.
who was their patron, she had actually, turns out she had died that night.
Mm-hmm.
The stagehand knew but didn't want
Didn't want
to,
to spoil the
cast a
mood.
pall upon the opening night.
Yeah, but everything else kind of confused me a little. Am I dumb? What
So
happened?
this
I told y'all
required
the
some
same thing.
cross-reference.
Yeah.
It's what? What?
This required some Legends of Runeterra cross-referencing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Multi-product storytelling.
Yes.
So it's not my fault. I always
No,
knew it.
yeah.
Nothing's
No.
ever my fault.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very recent piece. I think 2021, maybe. I could be wrong, but super recent, and it's kind of coincided with Kindred getting a release in Legends of Runeterra, where a bunch of, for gameplay reasons, Kindred got a bunch of other cards, but that they also kind of wove into the lore of like, hey, we're expanding on what Kindred is. That being said, my guesses are kind of tenuous, and I don't. It's just kind of, what's the word? Not suggestion, conjecture. That's the word. Conjecture is kind of what the deal is. But like, kind of explicit things that it mentions in here are the patron is wearing a mask, one that's got this kind of sprig sprouting out of it, and I'm pretty sure this is the Masked Mother, right? Which is one of the Legends of Runeterra cards. And what we can kind of intuit from that card is that they actually sort of created Kindred, or maybe sort of kind of incepted the idea of Kindred into the minds of mortals almost.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, because something that they go into with the other mask that shows up prominently, which is a vulture, which is also a Legends of Runeterra card called the Ether Fiend, is sort of that, like, the Masked Mother is sort of the start of everything, and the start of, like, even death and the stories around it, and the Ether Fiend is sort of the last, almost like consciousness, that, like, when everything is faded and things are forgotten, like, that's the death that the Ether Fiend brings, right? It's something that it kind of talks about with Soates a bit, is that Soates is truly dead because Soates has been, like, forgotten, or at least as she was, she is forgotten, and there's a scraps left. And that's what this
Right.
vulture is representing, kind of.
If you think of it kind of like, God, what is that Day of the Dead Disney movie?
Coco. I was
If
thinking
you
it when you
think of
said
it like Coco,
when you
like
talk about
the
it, yeah.
Ether Fiend is kind of like when
Has
no one
been
remembers a
forgotten.
person anymore, the Ether Fiend is their final death.
Yes.
I don't care for that. I never imagined Kindred having like a boss. I don't know. I felt like
It's-
Kindred
A mother.
was still. I mean,
Yeah,
your mother's
it's-
really your boss.
I mean, Hart, were you familiar with any of that, like, going into this one?
No, I was not. I don't really
Okay.
know anything about like Runeterra stuff. I mostly just focus on League itself.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Same.
a lot of shit out there.
Yeah.
I have some information kind of. So I know, like Mark mentioned, the Masked Mother is credited with like incepting the belief of Kindred into the world, because the lore team is super hesitant to commit to her having actually created anything. They're kind of like, they want to straddle that line between like, oh no, it's not created, it's just like she incepted this idea which was then adopted and became a thing.
And she invented Inception. Wow.
She did. Now there are a few other. Kindred is the aspect of kind of, I'm not going to say aspect, that is its own
That's
thing in
fine.
this.
I
It's the
know.
idea of like first death, and the Ether Fiend is the idea of final death, and there are a bunch of other versions of death in the universe too. So we've got the Soul Spinner, who is the representation of death to Elise's house. And it's possible that that story of death was told to Elise by Vilemaw. You've got the Fading Icon, who is the Shuriman god of death, known to the Bakai. But they were slowly, since the Bakai lived so long, they're like not immortal, but like they live for a very, very long time. So all of them have slowly begun to forget that the god of death of Shurima even exists, because they're not dying. So this god of death for Shurima is also slowly starting to fade, and he and Ether Fiend have a bunch of interactions with each other.
This is
Yeah.
a lot of death gods.
It's very
There are a
American
lot.
Gods, is what it is.
Yeah, it is very American Gods.
Yeah.
Fading Icon has a quote to Kindred that says, "Remember me, little one, please." And Wolf is like, "He'll be mine." And Lamb says, "No, he is for the other." And the
So are
Ether
they-
Fiend says to him, "Soon, little one, soon." And the Faded Icon's like, no, I have time. I have time.
Okay.
because people are slowly starting to forget that he exists. So
Sure.
the Ether Fiend will claim him soon.
Yeah, I think.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, reeling it back to what you said, I think it's an interesting idea, and I think that they've woven it in pretty seamlessly. But there's a reason Riot is not planting their feet super hard on a lot of this stuff. I think it's because if you do this too much, it's really going to start taking away from like the mystique and like uniqueness of Kindred almost. Like the idea of Kindred being these, like ideally I would say like a Shreeman Death God would just be an interpretation of Kindred, which is something that we see in that Realms of Runeterra story. I think it's an interesting idea to play with, and it works for now, but you got to toe that line, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What was your kind of feeling about like getting that stuff unloaded on y'all too? Like, does that feel like it's... Does it sound like it works? Does it sound like it doesn't?
It's a lot, for sure. I'm still trying to process most of it.
I know.
I definitely prefer the idea that there is just Kindred, and then people have interpreted them differently. Because that makes more sense to me. Unless they really want to make it canon that there's like a bunch of gods for one job. Like, do they need this many people for one job for death? Runeterra's only so big.
Yeah, and I think the idea is that none of them are technically gods. They're all just ideas of gods.
Sure.
Even Kindred's not a god either.
Well, like the idea of a god in
god.
Runeterra. Yeah, they don't really have...
Yeah, you know.
Well,
like that.
quote god or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's...
And we didn't even get to the Astral Fox or the Wings in the Wave yet.
Jesus,
Yeah, I was going to say, I know there's
It's
others.
fine.
Astral Fox is another one. Yeah, I think if you want to try and get to the point of like... Because you know, with Runeterra, you get away from just like humans and you get into things like aspects, and I could see the idea of there being something other than Kindred for something like an aspect, right? They're weird enough and outside the realm of humanity that maybe, okay, Kindred maybe doesn't come for them. You know, maybe something other than Kindred comes for Aurelian Soul, for example.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
But still, like you said, it's for most people, it makes sense that it's Kindred. I think it's fine for now.
What are these masks that they used in the play, and why did it kill them? Is that what it did?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, probably. So I read an interesting interpretation of this story, and the reason why various people chose various masks. So we mentioned that the vultures, the Ether Fiend, represents final death, and the one who took that was let's see,
Like the young Demacian actor, right? Artlo or whatever.
Artlo, yeah. So Artlo did not care about Soetes' legacy at all. Like they had like the bin of masks from her, and he didn't really give a shit. He's like, let's just fucking do this, get it over with. And I feel like he even had a quote there too. Oh yeah, he refers to her as a forgotten poet as he's choosing the vulture mask. So he's kind of personifying the vulture throughout this story. Soetes ends up taking the mask of the Mask Mother, which kind of mirrors his role as director, as she kind of ordains the existence and purpose of all of the other desks.
Tarnold, that is.
And kind of a quote from the Reddit thread was like, oh yeah, he's trying to say that Soetes' unfinished story... Sorry. The director is trying to tell Soetes' unfinished story, and he finally comes to the realization that the end of the story is literally death. And to fully understand the end of the story, you have to inhabit it, kind of like the Mask Mother said, like to fully understand the character, you have to inhabit it. So they're all kind of telling the story, the ultimate end of which is death, and they've all inhabited their role within that story.
Yeah.
And then died.
Yes.
Man, that's not worth it. It's just a play, guys.
You don't understand.
It's community theater, folks. Come on.
Off Broadway. It does mention he is the most important and only guy running the theater in all of wherever. Funny enough, this is in a Knockmerch, that place that Garen First Shield took place in.
But a long time ago. This takes place
during Jarvan
the Second's reign. Yeah.
Yeah. They even talk about little baby J3 loving some play he did. I don't know.
Oh yeah, adorable.
Yeah. I think that we can, okay. So like, it's firing on a lot of sort of metaphorical cylinders, let's say, and I think I would say definitely familiarize with the Runeterra stuff to get all of that context, but pulling it back, just in terms of the writing, I really like the tone switch, and I think that it's a nice looming kind of creeping reveal as like things get weirder and like wronger, and the descriptions of how the people are acting, especially Artlo, where it talks about like he starts like standing like a weird vulture and his like mouth like splits and he's like crying as he's talking. It's all gave me the willies.
Right? Graham McNeil and Matthew Dunn here are having a race to say who can conjure the image of someone's mouth splitting open more times in their story.
But yeah, I mean, I think I would definitely recommend it. It's an interesting way of trying to kind of weave together the two kind of disparate products of lore almost, and kind of pull it into the world a bit.
Yeah.
And it's a great setting for a Kindred story, which is why they did it twice.
Weirdly.
Also, I did look up because I feel like I had heard this term before, but I never really looked it up. But in case you're curious, they use the word mummer a lot in this and the other story. And that is an actor in a traditionally masked mime. And it's considered derogatory.
I didn't know it was considered derogatory. I have heard it before. Good to know, because I thought it was just like kind of an old timey term for an actor. Like I expect to see it at like the Ren Fair, like, oh, go to Mummer's Lane, and that's where all of like the people are doing like pirate dance and shit like that.
I would say it's probably like derogatory in the way that like, hey, idiot, or something like that.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah, so I mean, you're probably absolutely have seen exactly that thing at a Ren Fair.
All right, we're doing the third one then. A good
Unless
death.
anyone had any thoughts on Soates.
Other than I thought, even though if I knew like the Runeterra stuff before, I definitely could have had a better experience reading through the story rather than just being confused for most of it.
Yeah.
But now that John's explained and Mark's explained everything that is actually going on behind it, it actually makes a lot more sense. And like you guys were saying before, how it started lighthearted and everything, I was kind of worried that Kindred, a literal death, was just going to be like a lighthearted story, and then it takes that darker turn. And then it explains it so well of like when I don't know how to say his name, Duarte, or what it is, but when he comes back
Duarte?
in, Duarte,
Oh, yeah.
And then the explanation of like where the actors are and what they were doing, you could definitely just like picture it in your mind, and I think they definitely nailed that description of it.
Unnerving as hell.
Yeah,
It takes
was
like a
very
second.
unnerving.
It is. It takes a second for it to sink in, like, that they're dead.
Yeah,
Like,
the
I think
realization of where he says they weren't even breathing, and then
that was it.
oh, they're not living. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Oh,
Yes.
wait, whoopsied.
This was definitely one of those stories where like it was like Inception for me, where I got to the ending, and then I was like, all right, well, I got to look online and see what people thought about that, because I'm lost.
Yeah.
So who was the lady then? Or the person posing as the lady?
The mother of the masks.
But that was actually the mother?
Yes.
Seems like it.
That's like fucking God coming down and being like, I'm going to kill some of this theater troupe for funsies. Like,
It's
why would she do that?
Well,
I
it's
mean,
interesting.
before you knew that there was a mother of the
You all right?
before you thought there was a mother of the masks, you thought Kindred was a god, so she comes down and kind of just talks to people sometimes too.
I know, but she doesn't kill a theater troupe for the fuck of it.
Or does she?
Yeah.
Take us through the Runeterra
No.
story.
I mean, the next one, to be fair, she does for the fun, or they do.
Oh,
But
I thought
I guess-
I thought they take people who die. Like, if someone gets killed,
it's the Runeterra one is just completely different.
why? I'm so confused.
Well, I mean, to be fair, okay, before we move on, because to be fair, in the story we're about to talk about, they do die, and it's not like Kindred just killed them. But the thing is whatever, we'll talk about it in a second. I will say, stepping back to this one, I think you could definitely take the position that, it seems like the Mask Mother's sort of whole goal, or what she's all about, is, in kind of opposite of the Ether Fiend, like creating stories and creating legacies and memories, right? And like, what is this troop doing? They're not just doing any play; they're doing this like legacy of this great. Sotis, it also mentions, is like this Kindred fan girl, I guess, right? like her works are like the Kindred fables, right? So it's not just any story. It's like, this is the story that, potentially, this is like her one unfinished work. Someone trying to tackle this could drastically shape the Kindred, or like the concept of the masks, that sort of story. And that seems to be sort of if you think about like a godly domain, almost, that's the way I kind of see Mask's Mother's stake maybe in this, and why she's even intervening in the first place, right? That would be my read on it, maybe.
I just think she's got better things that she could be doing.
Now, she watched the dress rehearsal and was like, fuck that, not on my watch.
This place sucks. I'm killing all of them. Fuck
The
it.
reviews are going to be terrible.
Rate 1 star.
Do a producer's thing with the mask.
All right, next story.
Yeah. So A Good Death, also by Matt Dunn. This one had another credit on it, but I didn't write it down. I'm terribly sorry. But the wiki had 2 people credited. It was Matthew Dunn and someone else.
Oh, I missed the second credit on this.
I did not get that.
Yeah. In any case, it opens on an actress, Maga, who's she is playing Wolf's victim, and they've just been doing the same play like 13, 14 times. And that night the troop is making camp, and you're kind of getting all these people are going to fucking bite it, because it's going through and just giving like a quick one-line summary of like, oh, here's the couple who are expecting a newborn, here's this this guy, here's that guy.
Here are all these kind of happy people.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a shitty
happens
troop.
to him.
It'd be such a shame.
Yeah, it's definitely that feeling. They're kind of a shitty troop. Like, the guy who runs it is kind of an asshole. Kind of very much an asshole. Regardless, the person we're following, she kind of just goes out into the woods for the evening just to kind of get away, I guess. Or she kind of wakes up in the middle of the night and it's like, oh, I need to go walk. And as she does, she kind of runs into Kindred, and she's stalled. She starts like, oh my god, I'm about to get fucking killed. And Kindred kind of toys with her, and eventually it comes out that we're not going to kill you. It's not your time. We're not going to take you. But there is other sport that I smell in the air, and Kindred goes off, and Maga comes back, and all of the troop is dead. Attacked by bandits, right? So Kindred didn't just go kill them, bandits killed them, and so it was their time, etc. Fast forward years later, and Maga is now like, she's old, she's a renowned actress for her portrayal of Kindred and Wolf, because she's had first-hand experience, and she's doing a performance, and all of a sudden, like, her sensation of everything around her sort of leaves, and she feels a sharp pain in her chest, and she looks out, and the crowd is filled with nothing but lambs and wolves, and that's where it ends. Down the line.
I mean, I assume she died of old age or something.
It seems like something
Yeah.
more like...
Yeah, because it's
like
Lamb's
that.
arrow that's taken her, right? So it must be something that's very peaceful.
Yeah, and she had-
etc.
She had said when she met Kindred and Wolf, she had chosen Kindred, and then they were like, no, we're just kidding.
Just
I
messing with
love
you.
that. Yeah. Psych. I love that whole line, though. So she says, I would prefer Lamb's arrow, she said, looking at the rough crusts of bark on the trees. I'll imagine myself climbing to the highest boughs like when I was a child. Only this time, I will never stop climbing. Is that what it's like to go with you? No, said Lamb. It's a nice thought, though.
I loved
No.
that. I love that. I feel like it was canon that Lamb and Wolf don't know what happens, right? When they send people off when they kill them. I thought that was
know.
it. Maybe that was in the Spirit Blossom event. I might be
Probably. I was going to say, I feel like Spirit Blossom added, like,
It did.
other weird things.
Yeah, but it would make sense that they don't know like where they're
Right.
sending people. They've never
Yeah.
been there. Yeah. I did like this though.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Now, I guess, I mean, so did you actually go through it and read it again, Hart? You said you had listened to it before, right?
Yes, I went through and reread it and everything.
Cool. The reason I ask is because this one has pictures in it,
Yes.
which
Oh,
I don't think
yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
elsewhere. Maybe
I-
Leona's story.
Maybe the credit is for the pictures.
Oh, the artist.
Oh, the artist?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
Scott
bet.
Hawks, by the way, is the second credit on this one.
Maybe
Okay.
he did the art.
He may have been the
It
artist.
all
would make
seems to
sense.
be like the same style and everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So the last picture in the story I like a lot.
Yes.
So you get the last picture, you see her kind of taking her bow, and the crowd is full of lambs and wolves, and you see a dead body just out of frame. You see kind of like the hand on the ground, which reminded me very much of like that what was it, the Nun Escape cinematic of the Shadow Isles, where that kid's like lighting the lantern, and then Thresh finds him and he tries to run back to his ship. There's a force field blocking him, and then he turns around and he sees his dead body behind him, and he realizes that he's just a spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the last picture in particular, the rest were just kind of like neat. It's neat to have stories with these pictures with these stories. I'd like to see more of it. But the last one is actually, because that's a really cool scene, right? And you can picture it in your head, and then getting it kind of drawn out there. They did a really good job with it. I didn't even notice the body, I'll be honest with you, but that's even better, frankly.
It was just like in the Annie cinematic. You just see the hand coming from.
I mean, it's
can't be too violent.
Yeah, I will say that it's almost a shame that this and kind of comes immediately after the previous one, because I think they're both strong stories on their own. They're both fun reads, and it's just like, I kind of wish they hadn't gone back to the well. Which, to be fair to this story, this one came out first in 2015, and then that other one came out way later. So
yeah. I remember when this one came out, actually. This was that period where I was just getting back into reading the lore before I fell off of it again. But yeah, I do like... So this one is very specifically kind of a Kindred type thing. Like the last one, Kindred and, like Lamb and Wolf are a part of the story because we explore a lot of the different ideas of death in that one. But it's almost like the Masked Mother is playing the role that Kindred is playing in this one, so I like that for this. It's more specific about them. Also, this incident is referenced in Ezreal's field notes when he's talking about Jandel Demacia. He specifically mentions the story that they were, or the play about Kindred where the lead actress died on stage, and it was all anyone could talk about.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
That was the sharp pain. Everything.
Okay. Yeah.
A little heart attack.
Yeah, that's a really neat way to, or like reference to kind of have placed in there. I don't know. I think Riot really likes. They did a really good job with Kindred's lore in general, and it seems like it's such a strong concept, right? It's really easy to start bringing it out into different spaces, But so I guess Hart, between this and the other one, which one was your favorite theater story of the two?
It depends on. Because it's kind of hard to tell, because this one is more focused on Maga by herself, and then the other one is more focused on the whole troop and everything. But if I were good, before I would say definitely a good death, but now that I have all the information about Soati's story, I would probably say that one now.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, I grappled. I'm curious because I was grappling with that as I read through them. I was like, because I read the Soati one first.
They're both very good.
Yes.
They are.
And they're different portrayals of death for sure. Like this one was you kind of see both sides of it. Like she obviously has a very peaceful seeming death with Lamb's arrow. You also get the impression that the rest of her troop does not have quite as peaceful a death, and there's a good chance that Wolf got a few of them.
I think got all
but
of them.
Still nothing compared to the description of death that we like, the kind of body horror type shit from the Soati story.
Yes.
Yeah, a good death is easier to follow and it's much shorter, whereas the Soati's one, it's more visceral, I would say. Although both are very upsetting. Oh, it was very Del Toro.
Yeah.
But I think, although like the scene when she gets back and she finds the troop dead, I don't feel like it was emotional for her, but like it was pretty descriptive, and like the couple expecting the baby had tried to crawl to each other and they were both just dead. It's fucked up.
Yeah. He specified like, it clearly didn't happen fast.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. It makes a very distinct point of like, it was a slow death, and also the other people got burned to death, and it's just like, oh shit. But I mean, I think that like we're kind of saying, this maybe is a better one to if you're trying to get into Kindred, and then the Soates one with that extra context, maybe more of a I don't want to say thinker because I feel like that's insulting to this one. But
I needed to think a lot.
I don't know. It's like I said, it's kind of
leans more on metaphor.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a very diplomatic way of phrasing it.
Well, it was a thinker, a metaphorical thinker.
A thunker. Yeah.
Oy.
And then I was gonna say also I like Kindred, like when they were playing with Maga, and there's a lot of like personality that starts to kind of seep out of Kindred in this one in particular, which is nice. It's nice to get that strong sort of character voice or voices really kind of shining through,
Yeah, I like how they just decided to kind of fuck with her.
Right?
Like, do they do this a lot?
Because in a lot of the other types of stories, or like other parts of the story, you're seeing them at work.
Yeah.
This is them just, they're clocked out. They're just having a good
They're on
time.
break right now.
Yeah.
Right?
They got nothing to binge watch. They
Not
caught
even
up
supposed
on
to be here
Ozark. And
today.
I mean, kind of actually, yeah, honestly.
But they did say that they liked her portrayal of, I don't know, something. I don't remember. They liked her
Them.
show. They kind of complimented.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that's probably why they spoke to her. But
Sure. And
I don't think
I
they
think
do
that's
this
a
with
neat
just anyone.
that's a neat detail to kind of have, right? It's that like, there is a personality and like character to Kindred that you can relate to, even though they're this very super weird alien intelligence death personified thing, right? Like it's so much more. You can understand absolutely the Kindred personalities and things, right? Like,
Yeah. If
What
you
do
can be everywhere at once, why not go to every theater production about yourself?
What do you think they do when they don't like a portrayal of themselves?
well,
I mean, she didn't portray them in the
That's
first
true.
play.
It's
Yeah.
true.
The ones that were murdered did. So do with that information what you will.
But bandits
point.
got to them, John. They were
And
bandits.
who tipped off the bandits? We're looking at you, Kindred.
Made a couple calls. Oh, hell no.
All right. That Runeterra story.
All Kindred Eve.
All
That's what
Kindred
that's
Eve.
called.
Yes, also by Matt Dunn. I really like this one. I would recommend reading it if you are able to get a hold of the book, by purchasing it legally and all that jazz.
For the record, by the way, Mark has purchased this book. Like, it's not... You own it, right, Mark? Or
I
no?
didn't steal it from a Barnes & Noble or something. No, I bought it, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
It was smaller than I thought it was going to be, but whatever.
That's what she said. Sorry.
Hey.
Pew, pew, pew.
That's so relevant, right?
All right, so this is it's following Kindred as they go to a Kindred's Eve celebration. Kindred does actually like to go to things that depict them or just go see what the mortals are doing, right? They're
would
genuinely
too.
curious, right? And it's in Bilgewater. So it ends up it's kind of like a Kindred themed Mardi Gras, only more violent and raucous. But they go there and people are letting loose, right? Everyone's dressed up like lambs and wolves. And it's great because Kindred just walks around and everyone just assumes, oh, there's someone dressed up. There's actually a bit where I say cosplayer, a girl dressed up like lambs, like, oh, y'all's outfit is great, and your wolf's got an enchantment on him. Oh, you should enter yourselves into the pageant. You're gonna get third place at least. And it talks about how the wolf that she's with is just this guy in a black loincloth, and he's just got shitty face paint on. It's tons of fun, right? It's also interesting because they're just observing the celebrations. They're talking back and forth about it. It shows someone telling the story of Kindred, and he's telling things that are a little different. He's talking about the story that we think we know, which is that, once there was a pale man who was very lonely. And Wolf's like, oh, I know this story. And he's like, so he came to a road and he couldn't decide which way to go down. So he split himself so he could take both paths. And was like, do I know this story? And Kindred is kind of explaining like, oh, well, the story is not, it changes, right? The tongue that says it kind of stains it, The guy who's telling the story, the way he depicts lamb is not with a bow and arrow, but with a cutlass, because it's Bilgewater, right? Just these little details there are tons of fun. That being said, as the night kind of goes on, and things start getting a little more grim, I guess we'll say midnight hits, and all of a sudden they start wheeling in this guy in a cage who is tarred and wooled, and they call him the Lamb Fool. And they talk about like, oh, here's a guy who helps the sick, who is charitable to his neighbors, hasn't committed a single crime. and it's Bilgewater, so everyone's just laughing at him and throwing
What a
shit
nerd.
at him. It's really what it is. It's like, what a fucking nerd, right? And they bring him up to, it's very like the lottery almost too, right? Where they bring him up to like the I don't know, the pit. Not the pit. They bring him up to like, it's like a tree. This big tree that looks out over the water. And they've got these three guys who are dressed up like wolf, and they're kind of explaining that like, oh, you know, every year the wolf and the lamb come into to clash, and whoever wins, if the lamb wins, we will, you know, we'll be good, right? We'll pay our debts and we won't debauch, etc. But if the wolf wins, we have another year of going fucking wild. And the lamb fool's like, he's just this guy who's just been like starved. He's, you know, got nothing going on. They give him a broken bow and a broken arrow, and the wolfkin warrior is this like massive like corsair captain, and she's got like Madred's blood razors, like she's got like the Freddy Krueger claws, and she's got this big fuck off club where it's like, oh, well, I wonder who's gonna fucking win. They talk about like for 1,000 years Wolf has always won. And Lamb is starting to get kind of annoyed by all of it. It's like, well, this isn't fair. Wolf loves it. Wolf's loving it. And the whole time also, you know, Lamb is starting to get kind of annoyed because everyone's talking shit about Lamb, and they're depicting her as kind of just being a pushover, and she's like, well, I'll fucking show you. And she ults the guy as the Wolfkin warrior starts trying to, you know, kill him, and then a fucking lightning bolt comes and kills the Wolfkin warrior. And Wolf, it's funny too, because Wolf and Lamb this whole time have kind of had a deal. We're not going to chase. We're not going to do quote unquote water speak, aka talking in rhymes, and we're just going to observe. And Wolf's like, you cheated. He's like, well, I never said I wasn't going to shoot anyone. And he gets really upset, and Wolf's like, okay. Or Lamb is like, okay, you can kind of have your fun. And then we kind of see that as the night went on, a huge like fire broke out, and pretty much almost everyone died. And Wolf kind of ran them all down, and they just kind of reflect on, oh, that was a fun Kindred Eve. I think everyone in Bilgewater, like it says, like everyone in Bilgewater can't remember a more wild and fun Kindred Eve than that.
And before the fire, too, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I just read the synopsis. After Lamb killed the wolf, weren't they all like,
Yeah.
well, we can't let that happen, so they just fucked off and killed the lamb anyway. And then they're like, well, they both died, so Wolf wins.
They don't even that. They just, what happens is that essentially that they're all kind of like, well, we're not going to let that stand. They just start lying, like, no, I'm pretty sure he's the lamb died. Wolf actually, I think, runs him off a cliff. And Lamb even like turns to Wolf, is like, you know, his heart stopped beating first. This is bullshit. Wolf's like, I won. They said I won. That means I won. It's really tons of fun to spend with the two, and then yeah, shit just goes wild. Yeah, I really, like I said, I really recommend it. The back and forth with Kindred and or Lamb and Wolf is great. It's funny, and then it has like I said, a nice kind of dark turn at a certain point. And there's just like, there's little moments where Kindred will be kind of watching someone portraying, or sorry, I keep saying Kindred, Lamb will see someone portraying her and be like, I don't talk like that. Nary a word have I said like that. And then Lamb immediately says, nary would I, blah, 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 someone dressed like her. And Wolf's like, nary, I'm a dumb lamb. You know, it's a lot of fun. You know, I really recommend it.
Is there any indication about when this takes place in Bilgewater?
I think it feels like it's a little while ago, like it's not immediately current. I guess when they say in Bilgewater, I could easily see it being like a surrounding sort of island that's a little separate, like maybe Bilgewater as a whole region rather than the city. Because like the Wolfkin warrior who dies is called like the champion of Bilgewater, and I assumed at first like, oh, they're describing a woman. Oh, it's Misfortune. She's like, oh, is Misfortune gonna fucking execute this guy?
That's what I thought.
Like, goddamn.
I thought it was Misfortune.
Oh, damn.
But then it talks about her kind of like being very Alawi-esque almost, where she's just like, she's fucking thick. She's like white as a Mack truck, and she's just like this just walking hunk of muscle that's gonna fuck this guy up. So.
Now, speaking of Alawi, I was curious while reading this because, I mean, this is on the Blue Flame Isles. What do you think the Buru think about this? Because this seems kind of the opposite of motion. They just kind of like put on this charade to like justify their shitty behavior all the time. It
Well, I will
seems like
say-
the Buru would be like, hey man, just own what the fuck you're doing. Don't.
Yeah.
I mean, at the start, it kind of talks about how the people who go there are not of the Buru faith. It says, like, anyone who doesn't practice the Buru faith comes and does this there.
Okay.
So they seem to... This is again, where it's like, these little details really help to kind of make this feel very authentic, because it's like, oh yeah, like you said, if you're someone who's at all familiar with the region, that would immediately pop into your brain. And at the start, it's like, well, they don't, the Buru don't go do that. So
They leave us to our fun.
yeah. Yeah, it's a really neat little story, and it like I said, it's tons of fun to see Kindred go and see people, like I said, cosplaying as them. It's just this is again like really fun situations to put Kindred in and go and see more about them through that. And that's what I'm saying. It's like it's the closest thing to a perspective piece, because it's really following them as they're going around and watching things. There's no other characters it really follows, But
That's very cool.
yeah, highly
You didn't read
recommend it. Even
I read the synopsis.
The summary was
synopsis, I
amazing.
bet it reads interesting.
The summary was so good.
You really get the character voice through the summary,
Oy. Oh, well, that's fun. I guess there's a lot to play with there, because they can really roam all of Runeterra without anyone knowing that they're there. So there quite
Yeah.
literally can be a fly in the wall in any situation.
Certainly, and that's why I think
Yeah.
it's almost a shame that the two stories happen to be about theater troops, because it's like you could do anything,
Yeah.
right? You could tweak it and just have it be about storytellers in the Freljord or whatever, something like that, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Well, if you want to, you won't gain any additional context necessarily about Kindred, but if you'd like to read some short stories where people reference Kindred, you can read A Death Knot, which is a Sejuani story, Art is Life, a Vladimir story, Dead of Winter, which is a Sejuani and Olaf story, Perennial, which is an Ari story, The Karthus Bio, The Princeling's Lament, which is a story about the Shadow Isles, The Principles of Strength, which is a Darius and Swain story, The Shuddering Manse, which is an Elise story, or The Voice from the Hearth, which is an Orange story. They appear in all of those.
Hart's going to go
at
through all
least
those
in
for us
name.
now, real quick. Give us the summary. Someone says wolf or lamb. That's it.
Nice.
It's called-
Oof.
So were the stories everything you hoped they would be?
Honestly, yeah. I don't really read much anymore, but I mostly listen to just audiobooks. But
That's reading.
Yeah.
yeah. But for someone who hasn't actually like sat down and read for a while, even if it were just short stories and not like an actual full book, I was definitely engrossed with the words, and half the time I was forgetting that I wasn't taking down notes or writing anything. So I was definitely losing myself in the stories, and they're definitely worth it.
Yeah, I would say these were some of the, like you said, engrossing. A lot of times I'll like kind of get spacey, or I'll get bored, or I'll open up a new tab when I'm reading one of these short stories, but I didn't do that with Kindred's.
Yeah, you chose a good champion.
You did.
Yeah.
These are
I'm
some of the
from
more
what I
solid
remember.
short stories recently.
What do I
I'm
remember?
remembering
They were
that
good.
fucking quote quote Caitlyn story. Which one was it that it was just about Piltover? Oh god, I could not get
yeah.
through that
Progress
one.
Day.
Was it Founders
Prog-
Day?
Progress Day, I
Oh,
think. is
Progress
Progress
Day,
Day,
yeah.
More good. This is a story about a character that's not in it until the end.
That's right, barely. Yeah, you're right.
Well, that'll do it for the short stories.
I will
Thank you,
get
thank you
outta
so
here.
much for joining us
Yeah, it was
today,
great.
and
Thank you.
and thank you for the patronage. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Anytime. Definitely worth it. All right, well, thank you, and I'm going to dip out of here so you
Thank
guys can
you.
finish.
Well, yeah, we'll probably see you on League
Yep, probably.
sometime in the future.
All right, bye.
Bye.
So,
Bye,
yeah, have a
man.
good one, man. All right. So, for the second time in a row, we have a champion with no old lore to go over.
Oh.
There is the bio that you have on Universe now is the first version of the bio.
That's interesting that there's no tweaks at all. I feel like that's pretty rare.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 2015,
That-
that's more than enough time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe this is
yeah.
like just a sweet... You know what I want them to do? I'm going to go find like when all the champions were released that we like the lore of. I wonder if there's like a sweet spot where it just like
Right? They had a dream team for like a 1 year period.
Maybe.
because I feel like Echo came out around this time too. I don't know, but I could be
That's
wrong.
true. I think you're right.
I could be wrong.
And he didn't have a lot of changes either to his lore, I don't
Yeah.
think. Although they might be now with Arcane, but we'll see.
Nah, I doubt they'll change much.
I don't think so. I don't think they would change.
I
League
think the
lore
more I'm
for it.
hearing, the more they're committing to Arcane being lore adjacent.
Sure.
Or canon adjacent.
That's usually what how,
Okay.
as much as
So.
their commitment they're willing to make to fucking anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cinematics.
Cinematics, baby. So
It's a lot
number
of
one,
excitement.
we got Listen to Their Tale, which is their launch cinematic, which is just the story of Kindred, basically, where Lamb tells Wolf of the man who everyone had to face and nobody liked, so he took an axe and split himself in two so he would always have a friend. This is the short story of Kindred.
Oh, is that where Kindred came from?
That's, the myth around their creation.
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of like we saw with that Realms of Runeterra story, like this could easily be one of many, right? You know?
Yeah.
I will say it does kind of stand in contrast to the Mask Mother sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which I'm
It's
not.
very sad.
Yeah.
It's yeah,
Oh,
and
Nico, no.
I like the way that it's kind of told too, because it's definitely like it's got the feeling of like Wolf just asking Lamb to tell him a story.
Tell me the story again.
Yeah.
And he always like interjects, like, oh, and he he split himself in two,
So he would always have a friend.
so he would always have a friend.
I feel like this is how Wolf likes to imagine they came into being, probably.
Yeah, it's like
Maybe.
a nice violent way to
And
come
then-
into existence.
And then maybe the mother is how Kindred imagines that they came to be. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of the movie May. Has anybody ever
I've never
seen that?
seen it, but I've seen it recommended, and I really would like to watch it.
I saw it so long ago and it was really old, but it was about this woman who was so lonely that she just kept taking people's body parts that she liked to sew together a friend.
Doesn't
It's
she
a
have
really
them,
out
like-
there film from like the early 2000s or
Yes,
something.
yeah, I've seen, like I said, I've seen it recommended a ton. Never watched it, but I maybe I will.
It's weird. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I'm really sorry if it's terrible. But I think it's terrible in that way it's supposed to be. But anyway,
Now, Wolf also shows up in the Curse of the Sad Mummy.
oh,
Wolf is stalking Amumu through the forest at the beginning of the music video, which kind of makes sense, as Kindred would probably be pretty pissy at Amumu's undeadness. Although they do have some quotes towards
I was just gonna
Amumu.
say I definitely heard a quote towards Amumu.
It's like, yeah, you should be dead, but like also stay the fuck over there.
That was it. We're like, we now understand that you want. Okay, here it is. Hang on.
We understand your loneliness, but
Stay away.
Oh man, that's good.
Now, in the Giants music video, if you pause at 19 seconds in and zoom in a bit,
And enhance.
you can see the Kindred masks on a sticker on the railing as Echo's rapping.
My God, John,
Yes?
that was way more of a stretch than usual.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Well done.
Now
Wow,
they
that's
show up
fine.
also in 2 TFT cinematics.
Oh,
Galaxies, which was their Teamfight Tactics and mobile launch trailer. And for the side note, in case you're watching this music video, or not music video, just this trailer, I never realized how much the music for this, and I don't know if they carried it over into the game too, because I know a lot of the time they use the trailer music in game. The end of this sounds so much like the Smash Ultimate version of Gangplank Galleon. It's crazy.
Sure. Yeah. I believe you.
So
what a
you know,
nerd.
if you haven't heard the Smash Ultimate version of Gangplank Galleon, shit is a bop.
Okay, I'll check it out. I'll still do a little side by side.
Yeah. And then they were also in Rise of the Elements, which was the Set 2 release cinematic for TFT. So good stuff there. Those cinematics are usually pretty cute. They're getting much better too. You can definitely see the earlier cinematics for TFT were like you know, it's still kind of like a side thing where they hadn't determined if it was something they were going to necessarily invest in yet, and their cinematics now are like
There's
on
a budget
point.
now. Yeah.
Interesting. That's neat. Being able to see that kind of growth in that way, you know?
Yeah, especially for a game that I enjoy a lot, so you'll love to see it.
Sorry.
Now, I wrote down a few quotes. Again, Kindred is one of those characters kind of like with Braum and Kane, where there's a lot of character in their quotes.
Yeah.
Unlike Braum and Kane, there's also a lot of character in the stories, which is nice. So it was nice to see it in the quotes and in the stories. It's a nice 1-2 combo.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me... I say this a lot, but this like really makes me want to play Kindred just to listen to these two just talk back and forth. You know, I think it's the voices are very well done, but then more importantly, kind of the ideas in the writing. I love Wolf not understanding what tears are. He's got a quote, like, not in here, but in that Runeterra story where he's asking if you can chase music, and Lamb's like, in a sense, you know, you can. But it's a really strong little character pairing, and I really like the dynamic in general.
Yeah, I think one of the authors, I think, mentioned at some point, they had a quote that I really liked when they were talking about the relationship between the two of them. See if I can find it anywhere. Okay, so yeah, I think it was Matt Dunn that said this, but Lamb feels little but knows everything, whereas Wolf feels everything but knows very little.
Yeah, it's a just a strong little pairing of you know, personalities, and it's tons of fun to spend time with them, I think.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about this because I mean these are usually saved for the special facts, but the Wolf is voiced by Matt Mercer.
Oh, really?
And they have a quote towards the gangplank that says, "Have we met before?" He's also voiced by Matt Mercer.
That's great.
That's funny.
I would never have thought. I mean, that's the mark of a good voice actor, though, huh? You just never know.
They had another quote that I liked towards Echo, where Lamb says, "We know your name, child, woven across countless almost lives."
Mm-hmm.
Really
That's neat.
see how many times he's kind of cheated death on that one.
I'll be curious if they ever wrote a story with him having that recognition or something like that, like seeing Kindred in any way. That could be fun.
That would be interesting, yeah.
Right? It reminds me of the end of the balance arc of
Taz.
Taz.
Haven't listened to it.
Which
I'm
we
afraid.
won't get into in too much detail to avoid spoilers.
Fair.
It's been out for a while, but but yeah, I know what you mean.
You can earmuffs if you want. It's not a big deal.
No. It's fine. People will know if they know. You know?
If you know, you know. Am I right?
Know, you know.
Now, Kindred is part of 4 AUs. First one is Infernal, in a setting where the Ashen Lord has been summoned and transformed the world into a land of ashes, cinders, and fire. And this one is Shadowfire Kindred. When the Ashen Lord rose, high priests of the Shadowfire Temple called upon their own god to fend off the all-consuming infernals. They neglected, however, to account for the being's twin aspects, destruction and rebirth. Kindred will fight the flames, but there may be a bitter price to pay before the end.
Bum.
So wait, is Kindred? So like, is Lamb rebirth then? I assume.
I would
right?
assume.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Wolf be burning.
So,
Next up is Super Galaxy, featuring champions as galactic superheroes. This one, Super Galaxy Kindred. Lamb joined the Super Galaxy team as its lead scout, venturing into uncharted territory to face all manner of alien dangers. Soon after, Wolf joined the team as Lamb's partner, though in truth, he only really joined because she still owes him for lunch back when they were cadets. She's not getting away this time.
so wait, what is Wolf in this context? Is he still Wolf? Like if he, I don't quite get it.
Wolf's gone. They killed Wolf.
Okay.
He's, he's like like Star Fox Wolf. He's just Wolf.
I like an AU where they're just like both people, like
Okay.
separate from each other, but like besties,
Okay.
Can't let you do that, Star Fox.
Does he? She should. He. Well, they, they should have a quote like that on that skin. And they should say Star Fox and everything.
Right. They should say Astral Fox instead.
There you
yeah.
Now, there's also a short story associated with this, which we went over with the Fizz episode, and I'm going to read again.
Because this episode's so short.
You can cut it if you want. Kindred. Report. A monster is destroying downtown. Shyvana. Suit up, team. Touchdown in 5. Fizz. My trident will stab the sky. Shyvana. What does that mean? Powering up! Ah! Why is it yelling? Please stop that. Ah! Power infinite! Ah! Vi, guys, I could really use some help with this monster. Wait, who's yelling? We're working on it. Silence, space fish! We have to stop this abomination from destroying the city! Ah! Almost! Ah! Done! Ah! Kindred. We also want to yell. Ah! Nope, forget it. This team is the worst. I should have joined Neon Strike. Connection terminated. Vi. Hello? Is anyone there? Hey! Well, shit, there goes another fucking skyscraper. Baron. So, are they coming? Yeah, shut up, man.
Thanks, hun.
You're welcome.
I love
It's
it.
beautiful rendition.
I love the.
It's gonna be really
physio
fun to
in
edit.
yours.
Yeah.
Do it again.
All right, one more time from the top. Now, they're also part of Spirit Blossom. The Spirit Blossom Festival is an ancient and celebrated time in Ionia. When the door to the spirit world is opened, the dead return to their loved ones, and spirits of all manner turn their eyes towards the living. From the benevolent Kanmei to the obsessive Akana, their stories play out again and again, like shadows on a paper lantern. And this one is Spirit Blossom Kindred. In the Ionian tradition, the Kindred are interpreted as a child and her beastly companion, endlessly playing games with one another until they are called to perform their duties. The two do not know where they came from, but it is said they feel a sense of loss from someone they knew long ago. Now, there's a lot to go along with this. First of all, there's the Lilia Champion teaser, which is set in this universe where Lamb and Wolf show up, seemingly to kind of take the soul of a frog, from what I could gather.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, exactly. In the cinematic, the Path, an Ionian myth, which is kind of the Yone cinematic when he was released, he passes by Wolf on his way to being drawn in by Thresh to have his peaceful end taken from him. And finally, there was a visual novel for Spirit Blossom called
It was fun.
Spirit Bonds. I'll go over the Kindred part real quick. It opens with Lamb and Wolf playing hide and seek, but since Wolf growls so much, she very easily finds him. Their score so far is 4,396 to 0. And we get some good lines here from Wolf. Don't worry, Wolf only bites spirits. Oh no, this one's Lamb actually. This one says, don't worry, Wolf only bites spirits, bad spirits. And then Wolf says, Wolf bites people too. It's fun for him. So Lamb essentially wants you as the character to play hide and seek with her. She finds you very easily too. Wolf says, Wolf will start Losers Club. Very exclusive. Just you and Wolf. And we find out that Wolf and Lamb can go between the spirit realm and the normal realm and do a lot. And we also find out that all those times they say, like, Wolf devours bones, Lamb says it's metaphorical, to which Wolf replies, Lamb has exposed Wolf. Wolf is sad now. I feel like the more I do the Wolf voice, the more it sounds like Christian Bale's Batman, but we're going to keep going.
Where are they?
I wasn't thinking it, but now that you say it.
Fucking voice tomorrow. You're gonna be doing an interview tomorrow and just be like, "Hey, can you give me an example of a time when
Who do you work for?
Hopefully you, sir.
a fucking weenie would say that interview?" I mean, I would too.
Now, Kindred can't remember where they came from. The memories are stored in a locket, and you have to retrieve it for them. You also don't know how you ended up in the spirit realm in this story, so while you look for the locket, Lamb searches for your body. And then she mentions, when the time is right, me and Wolf will take you back home. I'll hold your hand. To Wolf replies,
Wolf will hold your other hand in his mouth. Yum, yum, tasty hand.
so you and Wolf end up finding the memories, but they turn out to be painful. They tell the story of, the man with the dark hair who everyone met but nobody wanted to meet. They refer to him as the Gray Man in this story. The one who kind of cut himself in half to always have a friend. But in this story, he used a magic knife instead of an axe. And, in the end, they send you back home, essentially, and Wolf leaves you with the sentiment,
When you die, Wolf will make sure to eat you gently. A nibble between friends.
and Lamb says,
Thanks.
Wolf! And then Wolf says,
Wolf is kidding. No special treatment.
I really liked their part of the Spirit Blossom event. I did this whole visual novel, and I actually read everything. I didn't flip through it as fast as possible,
yeah.
like I did the Sentinels one. Even though we didn't have a podcast yet then, I didn't have to read it. I just enjoyed myself.
Yeah, especially, and the Kindred was like some of my favorite parts of it, too.
Yeah, it was really fun. All of Wolf's dialogue was like bolded and capitalized, so you could like have an idea of like the distinction between the voices.
It's very good.
Yeah. Through and through, like Kindred across all places seems to have been handled very, very well for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consistently awesome.
Yeah, when they have a really solid idea for personality, I think even having multiple writers, they can kind of get it. It's kind of like Mundo in a way. We don't like Mundo's new lore, but a lot of times a Mundo short story will have the same tone because he's such a clear idea.
Yeah, or like Jin was very consistent
Yes.
between cinematic and quotes
Yes.
and stories.
Yeah.
And then you'll get someone like just a normal person like Ash, and then sometimes you're like, well, who are you in all of this? Yeah.
Now, the final AU is Porcelain, which is their
New.
brand new one.
Yeah.
In a world where ancient spirits and magical creatures thrive in the periphery of modern society, powerful porcelain artifacts called the Zodiac Relics are key to unlocking immense power. They're kept safe by the Protectors, immortal guardians tasked with keeping the relics out of the wrong hands. And this one is Porcelain Kindred. Once a skilled hunter and her fierce hound, the two were so bonded that their souls remained together when they were preserved inside the dog Zodiac Relic. Now they are two halves of a whole, mentoring generations of protectors like Lux and Amumu, and standing guard eternally over the ancient magic that keeps them alive.
Okay. Cool. It's pretty neat. Do they have any?
Adds more context to that cinematic.
Yeah, honestly, right? Like when you start saying it, I was like, oh, okay. The pieces immediately connecting in my brain, right? But no stories or anything. It's just that little blurb.
It also has Taz
Yeah,
vibes.
so far. Yeah, and it's got the one cinematic, but Kindred's not in it. That's just kind of a
Yeah.
Lux, Ezreal, Lysandra, did we decide?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's definitely Lysandra, but we just saw a snake and we were like, Cass!
It's
Cass! Idiots.
Cass.
The person wasn't the snake, she just had a snake.
You know what? That is not our fault. It's fucking confusing out there sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. Because Lysandra's never had a snake. I'm still confused by it.
When the only tool you've got is a snake, the whole world looks like Cassiopeia, like they say.
Yep.
Sure. All right.
All right.
Spit your fun facts and do it quick, because I gotta pee.
I'm gonna spit them. So we already talked about Wolf being voiced by Matt Mercer. Lamb is voiced by Marcella Lentz-Pope.
Oh.
Before their release, Mark of the Kindred symbol would appear randomly over champions in game, with their symbol being dubbed "They Are Coming" if you clicked on it.
That's cool.
It's kind of that, like, yeah, kind of a neat little pre-release little thingy. Apparently, a lot of the relationship between Wolf and Lamb is based on Matthew Dunn's relationship with his wife, with him being like Wolf and his wife being like Lamb.
Now I'm just picturing this guy at the Riot offices who's constantly like, I want to run and kill. Okay, Matt, but is that story going to be done? Like, yes.
He told on himself. He's got a lot of bones in his closet.
So, as said in the All Kindred's Eve story, Kindred are seen... words. Kindred are seen by Shirimans as elegant, tusked gazelles partnered with speckled hyenas, and by Ionians as a snake and a sparrow. Some Ionians also just imagine them as the taker that we talked about with the spirit blossom, like the little girl and the beastly companion. Other interpretations include a jawfish and a minnow, a bloody antlered stag and a sleek rabbit, and a rose and a stinging bee.
I want to say almost all those come from that Realms of Runeterra story. The one thing I found interesting about that as well is that the Ionians very often don't roam with a partner. It's just them, and they have a sparrow and a snake depicted on themselves in some way, which I thought was an interesting way of tweaking it a bit.
Interesting. I'd really like a bee skin for Kindred now, where Wolf is the bee and Kindred's a rose.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be great.
Yeah, you're welcome, Riot. I know you just released a bunch of bee skins, but for the next round.
Now, Kindred is one of 11 champions with an infinitely stacking effect on an ability, and one of 22 champions with no AP ratios on any abilities.
Cool.
Kindred is also the first champion to not have their icon derived from their artwork, considering it's kind of like a 2-for-1 case on the icon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well as the first whose release was celebrated with summoner icons. One for Wolf and one for Lamb.
Neat.
Oh, neat.
Kindred's dance is a reference to the tap dance Two Cups performed by Christopher Rice. It's a very specific reference.
I do not.
Nope. Okay. I mean, you could sure, if you tell me that's a thing, I believe you, but I don't know.
In their classic splash, Lamb has 4 fingers, but in Super Galaxy, she only has 3.
Oh, that's the real fucking deep lore.
And finally, Kindred Splash. This is unconfirmed, just potentially. It seems very influenced by Henry Fuseli's painting, The Nightmare.
Oh, I actually know what that is. You referenced some dance I didn't know, but I know that painting. That's interesting. I'd have to look at it again. I don't know if I'd be curious to see if that was actually the case, because I feel like they're kind of different. Like yes, there's kind of the image of a figure kind of crouched over someone's chest, but it's an interesting idea if it is. I do like that splash a lot. I think it's maybe one of Riot's best in terms of like storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Like you can just stare at it. You know what? I felt like such an idiot. I had it on because I was listening to the login screen music, and I never realized until like the other day that Lamb wears the wolf mask and Wolf wears the lamb mask. I never noticed that detail. Yeah. It's neat.
All right.
Intriguing.
Any final Kindred thoughts?
You done good.
Yep, very good.
Yeah, it was a fun
You did
one.
it.
Yeah, highly recommended. I think I was just gonna say I think Kindred might be one of Riot's best, like genuinely cool champions. Like there are champions like Kane who are trying to be very cool and kind of fall into edgy, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Kindred is like an idea and a character feels like wholly original and genuinely wholly like that's cool, that's neat, that's good shit, Riot. You know, I think that's maybe why the lore is so strong across all the pieces. Is it's such a strong like creative endeavor, you know, or idea almost. That it just helps it kind of maintain a quality bar, maybe.
Yeah, and it's a fun take on something that you see a lot of interpretations of in life and in fantasy. Like, how is death handled in this world? and they came up with a unique approach to it, I think.
Yep.
And they reinforce it frequently.
Yes.
Like the fact that they show up in like 10 stories that aren't even related is like they're very consistent with this is death in this universe.
Yeah. It's interesting to come across a character or characters that I wouldn't call them infinitely powerful, but they're probably the only one that's like would be feared by everyone in a way and is known to everyone in the world so far.
Except for Mordekaiser, am I right? We'll get there.
Yeah,
and
gosh.
Karthus, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's that'll be an interesting thing. Whatever, however that works, who knows? But
All right, I think that was Kindred. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so.
we did it. Yay, go us. So we have changed our Twitch channel name. It's twitch.tv/loreheads, so it's much easier to find now if you ever want to pop in. We stream on Saturdays, usually like starting between 6:30 and 7 EST, and it's usually me and John, and then we'll grab some people in the Discord, something like that. So we usually have a team of 5. It's pretty chill. And then John is going to try to start streaming Mondays. Do you want to announce that officially or no?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So
Okay.
the new TFT set is out, so I'm going to be trying to do a much more consistent Monday stream where I am attempting to climb through the TFT ranks and see how high we can get this season.
Yeah, he has formally hit Diamond, so if you want to learn about TFT, John is pretty knowledgeable. He'll answer questions and whatnot as he's playing.
Yeah, I'll see. And if I'm doing ranked, I might not take composition suggestions from chat,
no.
but who knows? Maybe we'll see how fancy I'm feeling.
You're gonna lord
Okay,
that rank over all of us, man.
It's the only thing I'm good at.
I love when we end up getting into normals and like that will pop up like your diamond rank. It's
Right,
a
it saves your
CFD.
border,
Yeah.
even if you're like going into like normal games.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, who's this badass? Like, I'm just gonna play AP Kaisa so I don't have to fight people.
Yeah, that is also something we should warn you. John is almost exclusively going to play AP Kaisa in the bot lane if you watch him stream.
Fuck yeah.
All right. You can also find us on Twitter. It's @Loreheads, and we post all of these on YouTube. And John has a few parody songs on our YouTube channel. And we have a Patreon as well. Thank you to all of our patrons.
But a special thank you to our Medarda tier patrons, Jeremy Rich, King of Hearts, who you just heard in this episode, and Mylect. You guys are amazing, and we couldn't do what we do without the love of all of you. That was a little Valentine's Day rhyme for you.
But what's funny is that we're a week ahead, so this is going to come out well after Valentine's Day, John.
True. Just pretend that this came out several weeks earlier.
Throwing a little
We're also
Happy New Year's on there too. Fuck it.
We're recording this also several days after Valentine's Day.
You do the best you can with a bad situation, all right?
Is it that you started singing and like didn't have a way of where it was gonna go, or
That sounds like it. All right, and be sure to join us next week for more of this great riveting content as we talk about the oh my god, I looked this up so many times. Cantankerous Cavalier Kled.